Let's.
Sifu, we are
Hello.
now streaming live on Facebook. So what I'll do is I will now tag you, right, in some way. So you'll have to bear with me while I do this.
So good.
Facebook. So what I'll do is, there we are. It's got that slight delay, but it's
delay. Echo.
Okay, so that's that. It says write a comment. Well, I don't really want to write a comment.
No, just
so
tag me in.
I'm trying to do that. Hang on.
All right. Or let me do it the other way, which is I should still be here, but my screen may have frozen. Yeah. So then I go to you, and I find the sexy man called Doc. Doc.
Oh, keep looking. I don't know where he is.
There he is. Doc. He's ready to rock. He's not wearing a frock, but he's always on time because he's got a clock.
Oh, I'm glad you said clock.
Yeah. Hey, this is a family show, allegedly.
Hey, I wasn't meaning that. At all. It's just the way your mind works, Sifu. Now,
hey, there's nothing wrong with my mind. Well,
is this now tagged to your site, is it?
Yes, it is. It is. And I'm just sharing it to a few others while I'm at it, because that's the kind of guy I am. And let's no, not that way. Let's do it that way. Share. And one more just to be certain. Let's stick it on the old way of conscious mindfulness page. And we're done. We're doodly, Scooby-Doo. Now I just got to find you. Where are you? You're here somewhere. And just carry on talking while I try to find where you are.
There we are. I've got the Scallywags comments here. Oh my God. They're all here. My word.
What, all three of them?
Yeah, no, there's quite a few coming in. That's good. Sifu, it's lovely to see you. I haven't spoken to you for ages, mate. There's lots going on. There's been lots going on in my life, as there has in yours. Big changes. We've moved home now. We have now a little white cottage in a lovely, well, it's a farmhouse cottage. Miraculous how we got it, but it's absolutely beautiful. We're surrounded with fields. We're surrounded by quiet, surrounded with nature. It's really, really lovely. It's changed because I think the environmental conditions impact very, very strongly on our own personal human mind conditions, and that's what I'm finding. But there's a lot of shit going on in the world, and I'm going to be dead honest. I mean, the world that we're living in now is so toxic that I think the stuff that we talk about, cleaning up your own act, is becoming more and more relevant, I think. And I think, I don't have a judgment as such. I work like you on what I'm calling essential bioenergetics. And I've worked with energies for a long time. And so really it's, how can we help people to become more aware of the energies that are affecting them, and what can they do individually in order to strengthen their own energies, in order to counteract and sometimes even protect them from the toxicity that the world is in at the moment. How does that sound?
That sounds awesome. I don't know who that's aimed for, but it sounds awesome. I mean, I don't know who's going to reply. I'm only kidding. How? Well, I think you and I like to keep it simple and keep it real, and because we are simple. Well, you're real. I'm simple. I'm real simple. But anyway, enough of Sifu humor. But breathing. But there's a saying I've lived by that, and you will always say, like, breathe from the heart. And the heart is a field that literally affects, in your heart, bioelectric magnetic field, and that affects everything. And breathing from the heart is the most important thing. And the way you breathe is also important for me. There's an old saying of if you breathe shallow, rapid and fast, your thoughts, your actions, your feelings will be shallow, rapid and fast. But if you can breathe slowly and quietly and effortlessly, your thoughts, your actions, your feelings will be the same. And I've got to say, like, you know, a little bit similar to you. I've gone from, well, I went from the city to went down to the coast, but I was still traveling to and fro to the city. And, you know, it used to be PCSO, used to be in the police, and I gave all of that up. You know, met the woman of my heart, the woman of my consciousness, the woman of my dreams, Els, and moved up here. And she had been running 9 acres of land pretty much on her own for the last at least 10 years, you know, and more in some ways. But she does Airbnb and camping and weddings, and she does weddings because the secret thing, she's a head witch, you know, in secretly, and she does her, you know, the herbal stuff and keeps it all quiet, but she's all about love. She's all about that. And so she did weddings here because most of them are all about love. You know, it's about that frequency and getting that frequency. And it was interesting, you know, I came down here and, you know, I do all the stuff I do, and I brought that as well. But in the last 6 months especially, everything's become metaphorical. In the essence of, I've dealt with septic tanks, which is a load of poo, literally. And dealing with that poo made me deal with my own poo and, you know, my own life. We had blocked drains. The same thing. There was all these things that actually brought metaphorical stuff up or brought things up. And if you've ever, like, you know, dabbled with The Secret or even Celestine Prophecies, they talk about the universe and synchronicities. Well, there's actually a CIA document that literally states, and it goes to a thing called Project Gateway, which literally states that the universe is conscious and we interact with it, and it interacts with us, and it interacts with us through synchronicity. And there's even, I just saw another document just recently saying, physicists saying, we can't explain it, but the math shows the universe is conscious and it talks to you. And you know, I love that sort of, that reply is that, you know, we can't bloody explain it, but this is what math says. This is what we go by, our language of, you know, of our understanding, our facts. What we go by is saying the universe is conscious and it talks to you. And I think everything's coming up, everything's coming to head, everything's being flipped on its head. And I really think now more than ever, you've got to realize that how you think and feel affects your health, your life, and your well-being. Everything is mind, body, and spirit is affected by the way you react to it. And the way you breathe affects the way you react to it, for me. Over to you, Doc.
The spiritual life is not a theory. We have to live it. And that's important to me, because it means that we have to take actions in order to improve our lives. You know, and in order to do that, we need to realize that most of us are just going round in the same old circle of habitual reactions, and we haven't changed since we were probably 7 years of age. And once I learned that the first 7 years of my life really determined the choices I was making as an adult, it blew my mind. You know, and we talk about, I honestly believe that we have to make meaning of our own metaphors. It's not for somebody else to interpret it for us. But what do we mean about making meaning of our own metaphors? That means that we have to sit still long enough, turn our eyes inwards, and start almost sinking down into the deeper layers of our unconscious. And when I say unconscious, Sifu, I mean that we're not aware of what's going on below the surface. And what's going on below the surface are the habits of a lifetime, that are still driving our behaviors. And most people, I think most people have to get to a crisis like I did in my life to be able to think, hang on a second, nothing I'm doing here is working. I don't have any satisfaction with life. I've got no fulfillment. I'm afraid all the time. I'm tired all the time. I'm bored all the time. I'm burnt out and bored at the same fucking time. What do I need to do? And I know, Sifu, like we've talked many times, is the answer that I'm looking for is in here. It's in here. And nobody can permanently do for me what I eventually need to do for myself. And that was called, and it was told me quite clearly, Joe, you need to grow. You need to grow up, and you can't grow up from your head because that's full of your old ideas, emotions, and attitudes. You need to sink into your heart and almost ask this inner intelligence, this innate intelligence, please show me one step at a time how I can put my life right. And Sifu, the miracle happened, and call it an epiphany, call it the light went on, call it something. I had a massive psychic change that changed the way I felt, changed the way I saw the world, and it gave me the courage to take the actions for me to get myself out of the situation that I'd created for myself. I'm on one tonight because I'm seeing it so clearly. And I think my job and your job, I see, is to point people back to themselves. It's not for us to be the teachers or gurus. We may be able to, like you call it, a muse, somebody who can talk from their own experience and say, look, this is what I did. These are the things that work for me. Why don't you give it a try? Just be gentle with yourself. Give it a try. If it works, all well and good. And if it doesn't, maybe we can talk about something else. Over to you, boss.
Yeah, and 100%. I mean, it was Confucius that, or at least he was blamed for it. Confucius, I always say it was Lao Tzu, but anyway, one of them said, show me a child of 9 and I show you an adult. He's like 7 to 9. We are pretty much set. And it's interesting. I was sort of talked about this before. It's interesting that when we're toddlers, we're happy with a cardboard box. We're creating so many things in our mind where we're open. We've got all these questions, and it's sorry, but it's adults that then start knocking us down. It's adults, for our parents, our siblings, our grandparents. It's adults that start saying that's rubbish. That stop asking so many questions. Stop trying to change the world. Stop this. Stop that. Like when we saw things, oh, that's imaginary. Don't tell people you can see fairies. People would think you're crazy, and all of this. And we literally had our abilities turned off. And I say abilities with a very loose tongue in the essence of we all have abilities. I don't believe that, only special people are psychic or only special people are this. I know for a fact they're not, because I studied the teachers, my teachers taught FT 500, 100 index businesses, psychic abilities, remote viewing, all these abilities that we are told only special people have. Everybody has them. So and it goes on to, with a Taoist, you'll hear me, my normal, when I do my normal spew, Sifu means guide me, somebody points you along the way. A lot of people try to say like guru, they try to say master, and I'm not the be all and end all. I'm not the big boss. I'm on this journey like you are. I may be in a different way, or I may know things, but as Doc said, what I know worked for me. I don't know if it works for you. The only way I know if it works for you is if you freaking go and do it. And that's the whole point of what I teach. Is and this is why there's an old joke with my students that Sifu Boggie will, you say, I've got a headache. He'll teach you 30 different qigongs for a headache and say, go and find out which one works for you, because that's the point. That I learned all of this stuff, so I could narrow it down to, well, let's try this and let's try that. And even to the healers, and I've even with psychics, is this idea of going to somebody else to heal yourself, going to somebody else to read your fortune. The best person to read it is you. You have the Akashic records, tuning to the Tao, eating a banana, whatever you want to call it. You can tune into your own information. You and the universe talk to each other all the freaking time. And it's about time you learn this. It's about time. And you are the best person to heal you, because when you're happy, your body starts to repair yourself. When you're stressed and tired and angry, your body breaks down. You know, there was certain, I don't want to tread lightly here, but there were certain things about certain medical procedures that were changing your DNA. You change your DNA all the time. If you're happy, you change your DNA. If you're sad, you change your DNA. So don't worry about other things trying to change your DNA. You change your DNA to how you want to do it. Over to you, Doc.
Epigenetics. It's the
Indeed.
expression of the DNA. And I honestly believe that we are all connected. Everything's connected via source, via the primary driver of all creation. And why do we need to listen to middlemen and women for information? Why can't we go directly to source and get the information from there? And I think that people more and more now, they're not looking for external expert advice. They're turning inwards now to intuition. And there have been and still are nefarious organizations who will try and keep you distracted away from looking inwards, you know, because this is to me about self-awareness, self-reliance, self-esteem, self-worth, self. And in order to get to that position, you have to have the courage and the confidence to turn your eyes round and look in and say, look, what am I really good at? What are my strengths? Because all of my life, people have been picking out my weaknesses and hammering me with those, you know. And I know now, Sifu, that from the day that I was born, even conceived, even before conception, and I'm not getting into all that, you know, but from the day that I popped out, I was fed information that went contrary to who I am essentially at the core. And I've realized now certain ways of getting in. The simplest way, as you said, is through breathing, through sitting quietly and tapping on your heart like that, seriously, and saying, is there anybody in there? And that sounds like a joke. But once I started to do that, I had a sense of that I was being listened to in the depths of my own being. And I get information this way round now, Sifu, this way, not this way. It doesn't come from my head anymore first. I'm not disregarding the ability of the head and the ego, because we need an ego, but there was a sort of obstructive shadow side of my ego that was filled with pride and filled with fear, that was always jumping in from blocking me from taking the next step. You know, this is, we're quite serious tonight for us, but it's becoming so relevant, especially with the way the world seems to be quickening. But Sifu, nobody did it to me. This is me talking now. I'm not trying to upset or offend anybody. Nobody did it to me without my permission at some level. So at one level, I am 100% responsible for the choices I've made all of my life, my life. Over to you, old chap.
Yeah, and that's sort of, there was other things we were going to say, but that one, one of my guests on the Way of Conscious Mindfulness was Melody Black, and she was a woman who was gang raped. She was gang raped by several men, and she made a big public thing. This was like 10 years ago now, but she said, I forgive the people who done it to me. And there were certain rape organizations absolutely appalled by this and made a big thing. He's like, oh, you know, how can you, you're you know, they were really upset. And you say, no, you don't understand. It's not for them, it's for me, because I can't move on if I hold on to this. And it's the biggest thing. And this was, like I say, this is not me saying this. This was somebody else saying this. But I learned this through being bullied. Well, you know, I bullied at school and bullied, you know, as a teenager in the baking trade when I first started. And I had to realize that it was me with the power. is that I ended up there was a thing, and my teachers did this really weird thing. My Sifus did this really weird thing to most people, but they put me in competitions where I had a slim chance of winning. There was 1% chance of winning, and they did it for a particular reason, because when you learn that you know that, oh, you got no chance, you got nothing to lose, you give it your all, and you suddenly flip everything around. And there's an old Japanese saying about the pauper and the samurai. And the samurai got offended by this pauper, and he did this duel to the death. And the pauper went to the sword maker and said, you know, can you help me win? And he said, well, you're fighting a samurai. I would put everything in order. I would tell your loved ones that you love them and put everything in order and prepare to die. So that's what the pauper did, prepare to die. And he faced the samurai. Like a week later, he faced the samurai, and the samurai looked straight into his eyes, and suddenly the samurai said, I forfeit, and walked away. And the pauper was confused, and he said, the sword maker was there. And he said, I don't understand what happened. He said, you were ready to die. The samurai was only ready to live. And when you learn that, you change, you know, everything changes. And sometimes in life, you know, the things that you fear are what will hold you down. So you've got to face them. You've got to turn it around. And that's what I've learned the last 5 months of being here. Sometimes you've got to face your own crap. You know, you got to face those things, and when they come up, and you know, and there was somebody else similar to Melody Black that I heard literally just this week. Actually, there was another woman who literally, while she was being raped, forgave them straight away. And again, you know, it's a very controversial subject, but it's this thing of to have that much compassion and that much that's a mighty person. That's a strong, you know, that's the person not to be messed with. When you have that much compassion that you can forgive somebody instantly, you can, you know, deal with your stuff instantly and not pass judgment or not. That's a very powerful thing. And it's just something I'm dealing with right now. It's something that I think that, you know, is the way forward, is that we've got to stop blaming others. We've got to stop pointing outwards and look inside. And there's a thing from Huna, which is the Hawaiian Reiki, and most people know this more, the Ho'oponopono, which is I'm sorry, I love you, please forgive me, thank you. And it's never meant out there, it's meant for yourself. I'm sorry for not learning this lesson correctly, or bringing this onto me. Please forgive me, or please forgive me so I can let it go and move on. Thank you for this great lesson to learn, and I love you. I love the universe, because everything that happens to you is for you to learn from. That's the point. And I think we go, oh, my life is this and that, and it's like, but it happens to you so you can grow. It happens to you so you can expand. And when you start, there's so many things. My own shadow work, when I started looking at all the bad things that happened, I suddenly realized how many good things came from them. And that was a mind blower, that all the things that I thought, well, you know, you would assume were negative, actually eventually they led to other stuff. They led to other lessons, or they led to other rewards. So there is and this saying has got me in trouble in the past, but there is no good or bad. There just is, you know. And it's interesting that saying itself, 20 years ago, I would get so much hassle for saying that saying, and I'm not getting as much now. And I think that's because people are evolving enough internally to actually start seeing things in a different way. We're not so much in this way. And I just wanted, one thing you said about the universe and like source, God, whatever you want to call it. In 1974, quantum physics wanted to figure out whether the atoms were separate or together, and they found what's called the quantum field. And when you ask a scientist, what's the quantum field? Well, it connects everything with everyone, and everything's interconnected. And even without, you know, and then they try to, oh, look over there, a pretty butterfly, because what they're saying is that reincarnation, ESP, everything is connected. So you can talk to the universe, you can feel other people, but other people's pain is your pain. Other people's love is your love. Everything outside is actually a reflection of what's inside. Over to you, Doc.
Yeah, we're going deep tonight, and I totally agree. You know, there's a phrase I like is, did not we ourselves set the ball rolling? And what that means is personal responsibility, because the ancient Hebrews used to call this world we live in, it's called the 3D world. They call it the 1% world because there's 99% going on in the so-called subtle and invisible realms that direct and influence the choices that we make, that have an impact upon the quality of our life, you know. And what I've learned is I have to look out for, there's a phrase called loosh, it's called loosh. And loosh, right, and I'll try and explain this in the way that my head works. Loosh is what negative entities feed upon. Now, if you're going to call this, you know, religion, you know, I would say that's what the evil spirits feed on. And what loosh is negative emotion. It's negative emotion of all sorts of levels. So anger, they love that. If you're an angry bastard, they love it because you're tasty, right? So you can get over anger because you can feel that coming up in yourself and think, oh, hang on, this isn't doing me any good. But it's the more subtle stuff. It's the hidden resentment, Sifu, right? It's resentment, self-pity, right? Self-justification, all egocentric fear, it's called, you know, egocentricity. Sifu, I didn't want to hear this because the person who told me this was suggesting that I'd brought all this upon myself. And you know what? I can see it as clear as day now, that the soul, this is the secret of attraction. The soul attracts to it every single day the scenery and the players and the situations and all the environmental conditions. Every single day is set up for us to take the steps to overcome fear and go forward. And that's why I agree with you. And if I was going to have a philosophy, it would be Taoism, you know, because Taoism to me is about energetics, you know, and people start to talk about moral and philosophical convictions, you know, that this is the way that it should be. And if you practice this, you will be happy and all that. I've had all that shit fed to me all my life, and it never worked. And what I'm beginning to see is I was fed and socially engineered an external moral code that wasn't mine, right? Some of it might have been true and worked for me, but most of it didn't. It constricted me, it contained me, and it stopped me really from expressing who I am at the depth, you know. And I'm not talking about exhibition here, I'm just talking about freedom. And when I drank, Sifu, a certain amount, the lid came off and all this compressed energy came out, and it made me feel free. But it came out in such a destructive way, but it was exciting. And in that process of releasing all this contained energy, people got hurt. And I'm sorry for that, you know, I regret it, but it was such a powerful force that nothing in my head, no thinking could stop this coming out. And here's the irony is, I used to wake up in the morning filled with guilt, remorse, and everything else, worry and fear. Oh my God, what will they think of me? But there was another part of me thinking, yeah, but it was good. Why don't we drink again and get that feeling again? And that's the basis of addiction. The basis of addiction is the primary release it gives you and the feeling of freedom. That's why people get drink, you know, drink does it for them, sex does it for them, drugs do it, whatever your addiction. But the underlying cause is repression and social engineering. So what I found out was I was given a blank sheet, and the person who was helping me, he said, from this day on, you learn now from your own experience. Be gentle with yourself, but if you feel fear, self-pity, self-justification, anger, all those things, that means that you're obstructed. Don't make a choice there. Go into your heart, clear the obstruction, and then ask for inspiration or intuition to guide you. And Sifu, I've done that for 31 years in my life. My life's transformed. Has it been easy? Has it hell? Has it hell? It's been like hell, you know, but every time it's like hell. But every time I take a step forward, it's almost like new energy comes in. And I think, why didn't I do that all those years ago? And the reason for that is because I wasn't ready. It's got to be done in the right order, in the right sequence to be able to go forward. Christ, I'm on one tonight, mate, but back to you.
Oh, no, you're on a good one. Yeah, you know, that's the whole, you know, it's the whole thing. It's, well, the first lesson I think I had to learn with this about you listening to yourself is that listening to yourself is not selfish. There is a lot of people that like to put that out about, oh, you know, like focusing too much on yourself or spirituality or this, it's selfish. And it's like, no, this is a distraction. This is there to try to get you off that path. But you've got to look inwards, because looking inward, looking after yourself, how can I look after anybody else if I don't look after myself? You know, and that's the biggest thing I talk to a lot of my students who are mums and whatnot, that you have to look after yourself, because how can you help the ones who depend on you and you love if you're not strong yourself? And it's this big thing is that we've been distracted, and that, and sort of, or going on to the whole thing about, yeah, loosh, there's a big thing. It's a thing that I've been keeping quiet, or sort of about, is that people talk, or certain religions, certain perspectives say hell is beneath us. Hell's all around us. You know, if you actually look into like Dolores Cannon, or even Ra, the Law of One, they talk about fifth dimension. They never overly mention fourth. Why? Because fourth is where all the bad stuff is. Fourth is where all the scary mothers are. And they're, you know, the biggest thing is we've got to break through it. You know, the whole idea of waking up, ascending, is even in this physical form. You have to go through the hell. You have to go through all that crap that's waiting for you, and they've been feeding off you all this time. And, you know, for some people that's really scary, and it's like, yeah, but it's like flies, you know, is that if you, or wasps, if you run, they react, or dogs, if you scared of them and they'll react, but you ignore them, they go, oh, you're okay. And it's that thing, is that this, what I've learned, and I learned it through being Boggie the Ghostbuster, was that the whole fact of the demons and the scary stuff, when you're focusing on love, and when you're raising your vibration, as Doc said, they want fear, that's tasty, and they want anger, that's tasty. Love, that makes them vomit. They don't want that, and they'll go away from you. And you know, there's actually there's a picture of me clean shaven with long hair and the dreadlocks, and it says it says about, if you really want to scare negative people, or be so positive and so happy, you scare away negative people. And that has been my mantra for a long time, is that the reason why, oh, Boggie's so crazy and Boggie's so this, the sacred child, you've got the divine masculine qualities of being firm without being violent, and being, you know, being there to protect people and being there for people. Divine feminine, that loving, nurturing energy, wanting to help people, not hinder them, not slow them down, because if they're getting, they're like 5 steps ahead of you. You should be applauding them, because if you applaud them, that will come to you. If you're judging people because they're ahead of you, you'll stay further behind. I've learned that big time. And then there's the sacred child. The sacred child is about play. It's about taking the mickey out yourself, and never take yourself or anything else too seriously. That's why I may be Sifu, but I'm not God Almighty. I'm not the master. No, I like being the lunatic. I like being silly, because it makes people smile. And when they smile, endorphins kick in, and when endorphins kick in, they're healing. So I don't necessarily have to heal you with these hands or teach you a qigong. If I make you laugh, then I'm doing my job. I'm helping you find your path. And that is, that's where I go. And that's where, and then so like, I hope like the negative stuff, yeah, it's all around us. But it doesn't like laughter. It doesn't like love. It doesn't like positivity and light. So the way you don't beat it by trying to destroy it, you beat it by raising your vibration. You overcome it by raising your vibration and becoming brighter and lighter. And that's the biggest thing. And there's actually a thing in Taoism, as well as the law of one, that actually talk about there's a certain density. They get to 6 and 7 density, and the light and the dark have to actually merge. They actually become one, because the understanding that from your darkness, from the pain that you've been through, you actually grow more and you actually become stronger. You don't become stronger by hiding from it. You become stronger by embracing it and come on, I love you, give me your best shot. And raising that vibration, and that's to me where it's interesting with healing. Yes, I'm known as Hot Hands Boggie or Hot Bath Boggie. Yes, I can do the massage, the healing. That's awesome. But I want you to learn to heal you. I want you to learn Qigong. I want you to learn techniques that help you, because that's the goal. Not, I don't want to heal 1,000 people. I want 1,000 people to heal themselves. That's what I want. Over to you, Doc.
Marvelous conversation tonight. I'm enjoying this. And I agree with you about from 3 to 5D. They're talking about a quantum leap. Nah, I'm not having it. Because to me, that's just a head trip. And I know loads of people who are basically talking to the Pleiadians, the Arcturians, and everybody else. And they're in this bliss consciousness, right? But they can't make enough money to make a living and to feed themselves and all that. Now, I'm only saying this is the way. Now, if I'm wrong and I'm proven wrong later, then I'll apologize. But I'm saying, like, in the West, right, and in the East, we have two opposing philosophies, really. And in the East, they sat on their bottom, taking all sorts of herbal medications and stuff and coming up with great ideas. But they were all starving to death, So in the West, they just make more. I need more. So there's got to be, in my opinion, some way where we find a healthy balance. Now, insanity from the Latin, it literally means not healthy. Sanus means healthy. It can also mean clear, or it can also mean sound. So insane behavior is simply unhealthy and imbalanced. Simple as that. So sane behavior is to find some sort of a balance where you're comfortable, but you still realize that there's much, much more to experience. And I think that that's what we're all looking for, really. However, like we've said before, Sifu, you might have to learn to stop going forward. I might have to learn to stop going backwards. See what I mean? So that would be from the external moral code. We can dispense with that, start again, and start to listen to our internal moral code or compass. And as I say, if I'm comfortable with that, people pick that up. It radiates from me, not consciously. It just seems to come out, Now, I wouldn't say boo to a goose when I was a kid, I always was very sensitive. I didn't feel physically secure. So I used to hang on to the tails of the bullies, and I'd be like a gopher for them, That was the way I defended myself. And this went on until I was about 38 years of age. I would always sort of clock on to those who could look after themselves physically. And I've realized over the years, and I've practiced loads of different martial arts, and I got quite good at them, but I never emotionally grew up. So they used to come up to me, in the discos and all that, the Chelsea Reach, they used to all come round from the Kung Fu Club and say, looks like a fight breaking out over there. Should we all go over? And I'd go, good idea. And as they went over, I'd scoot out the back door, So I've always been ducking and diving and dodging and weaving. But what I found was, when I got into the softer forms, I became more physically capable, and I didn't understand this. We've talked about before, Jing, Qi, and Shen, I didn't have a clue about different subtle energies and how if you can tune in through Tai Chi. I mean, like you, I've practiced Falun Gong, I've practiced Chen style Tai Chi, Yang style Tai Chi, and even made up one with Master Dave McCarthy, right, called Fu Shen Tai Chi, which is the god of happiness. And I believe that love, true unconditional love, not something that's generated through sentimentality, something that actually comes through us, I think that's unpalatable for loose lovers, right? You know, because as you say, it makes them sick, you know. And the other thing is, what you give attention to grows, you know. So if you pay no heed, take no notice, and don't give it any energy other than an open and flowing heart, they go off then and bother somebody else who maybe needs to learn the same lesson. So I agree with you. And that's why I was shown, Joe, it's negative emotion that's causing all your problems, because it's blocking you from seeing clearly, right? And you can't go forward until you learn how to do that. Well, how do you do it? Open your heart more and more. Don't be afraid. Look out for fear. Make an inventory every day of where you felt triggered, and look at that in you that needs to be let go of. And what you were saying before about the poor women who've gone through, I mean, well, I say poor women, it might have been a lesson, but a horrendous lesson to learn, you know. And I'm not condoning all that behavior, but I've had to learn, because when I was in drinking, I used to be beaten up by a gang of youths, you know, 15-year-olds. I've had broken ribs. My nose has been broken that many times, and sometimes I'd wake up in a pool of blood, you know, when I was drunk and stuff like that. I've forgiven all those people now, because people can only operate from the level that they're at, you know. Yeah. And that's something. I've taken the hook out of me. I wasn't condoning or saying their behavior is correct or anything like that, but I'm saying, in order not to feel resentment and be dragged back to all the negative thinking, I've had to take the hook out of me, let them get on with it, because I do believe in time that divine retribution, if you like, will come to them, you know. So I don't know what I'm going on about here, but I'm just saying that this is deep. And if you keep looking outwards for answers, I think that you'll be sorely sort of troubled, because to me, it's about time that we started looking inwards and looking at the bits that trigger us, that where we're hooked, where we're in bondage, and blah, blah, blah. Over to you, mate.
Yeah, and, you know, there's an interesting thing on, you know, doesn't matter who, but society itself wants you to focus on the outside. It wants you to focus on TV. It wants you to focus on this. It wants to focus on politics. It wants you. There's 10,000 things going on all around you, and you're focusing on them. You'll be a headless chicken running around, wasting your energy. And you know, and you said a very, you know, important point about the loose, the darkness is. It won't go after you. If it has to expel a lot of energy to chase you, it won't bother. It'll move on. So the whole idea is, well, when you change your vibration, those darkness disappears. But it's this point of is that there's lots of distractions outside to stop you from looking inside. And the point is, for me, the more distractions there is outside, the more it's telling me to look in. And there was something that happened this afternoon. Well, actually, we've got a pig. We got a pig called Dottie. That was an abandoned pig, because it was bought as a miniature pig, but it kept growing. It's not miniature anymore. And Dottie has escaped 97 times, and I've managed to keep her in about 3. So it's 97 Dottie, Sifu free. But the whole idea was you know, it's like, oh, you know, got to do it again and do it again. But it's that whole idea of look within. What is Dottie teaching me? Because Dottie is showing me is I'm not focusing on something. That's why there keeps holes appearing So when you start looking within, you start finding the things that you need to know. You start finding the things you need to learn. And it's this whole idea of there'll always be something on the outside to distract you. There's always going to be something there that you could be distracted by. You need to focus inside. You need to, you know, like, I'm not saying ignore your hungry children, but what I am saying is don't get distracted by the things you don't need to be distracted by. Focus on the things you do need to do. Don't focus on the things you don't. And there's two things. So one thing is an interesting thing in the West that they talk about. Like people going up to the mountain. Like the yogis and whatnot going up and being hermits on the mountain. What is not often said is that in the East, they say at some point they come back to society, because it's all very well having all that information. If you don't bring it back to society and actually share it and raise the vibration, what's the freaking point? You're being selfish by sending yourself. And then there's another one which actually says in Taoism, there's actually a thing called the 5 skills. And it says, if you have these 5 skills, so it's poetry, cooking, massage or healing self or others, so poetry and music, philosophy, and then defense, martial art. If you have these 5 skills, whether you live in a cave or you live in space, you'll always be an essential part of society, because you have different ways to help people. You have different things to adapt. So the whole idea, because people say, oh, Sifu, you know so much stuff. And it's like, well, there's always more to learn, firstly. There's never too much of anything. There's always more you can learn. But the whole idea is everything I've learned is actually interconnected with everything else. And so it actually all makes sense. It's like, you're massaging. Massaging actually helps bond and connect relationships. But I learned to be a baker. And when I learned to be a baker, my Sifu said, excellent, you'll make a great masseuse, because kneading dough is massaging. And when you massage and you release toxins in the body, you actually help somebody actually find new ideas. I've actually done massages where people have gone off and in the massage, they've gone and did remote viewing, or they've gone and past life, and they say, oh, wow, But I said, it's not me, it's you. You just needed the right rearranging to make that happen. But if you didn't come to me, that would have never happened. That's the whole point. So is that I can only do what I'm given. And then from that, I can help other people and teach other people to help themselves. But it's still within you. It still has to be you that does it. It has to be you that moves forward. And so, yeah, over to you, Doc.
No, I think we've covered a lot. I'm a qualified remedial massage therapist, and I've sports therapist, and I've tutored in that for a long time as well. So I've got a few strings to my bows, but there's other things that I want to learn. Yeah. I feel like I feel complete, and yet there's always a part there that's, sort of egging me on to learn something else as well. What was I going to say? Tell me about Sec Cops Farm and the stuff that you're doing there, because you're doing, no, seriously. I mean, you're doing some workshops and you're doing stuff like that. I'm hoping to come down one of these days. And we could maybe do something together or something like that. That would be good, yeah. But do you want to tell everybody what's going on? Might as well use it as a little advert.
Yeah, why not? So Sec Cops Farm is in Lincolnshire, and it's near Market Raisin. And my wonderful partner, Eleanor, she has for over 17 years, I think it is, she's been doing weddings. She does weddings here, and she does events, and she's done camping, and I'm now part of it. And we've actually, you're actually in, have a quick zoom around, you're actually in my sanctuary right now, my little healing queen, my dojo. And we are doing, so on the energetic side, I'm doing different events every month, and because I very much follow the Chinese astrology, which has 12 animals, and each animal has a year, each animal has a month, each animal has a day, and each animal has 2 hours. A little bit like Western astrology, it's not just your Leo, you're this and that as well. It's more than one thing. So each month we'll do a little bit of, this month it's all about dragon, and dragon's about launching into new ideas. We're also adding the sacred child as well, because that's about play. We're also about listening to connectivity. And because of this weekend, we've got a retreat. It's also it's also a full moon, so we do full moon activity as well. And the whole idea is that you learn something physically, you learn something emotionally, and you learn something energetically, because they're all interlinked. To me, they're all interlinked. You know, is that when you learn qigong, I learned when you learn qigong, you learn self-healing, you as well as protecting, but you also learn energy work. You know, in qigong, I was taught is Reiki, or called Shin Shi Shen, and in Reiki that I learned was Hatsui Ho, which is qigong. They're all interactive. So the whole idea, one of the things we do here is the spiritual healing. If you live near Lincolnshire, I actually do, I do all the massages that I do. I actually do here, either portable, I can come to you, depending how far away you are, or you can come to me. Then we're also doing music gigs, because music lightens the soul, it lifts up that heart. So we're doing music stuff here. We'll be doing glamping and camping, so there'll be little tweaks of spiritual stuff in there. But we've also got animals, we've got llamas, we've got pigs to get back to your childhood again, and you know, stroke and have fun. And the whole idea for me is it's not all one thing. It's not all spiritual. It's not all physical. It's not all philosophical. It's everything. It's the Tao means your way, your path, your balance. And that's what Set Cops Farm, especially for Els is all about raising vibrations. She's all about love, being in that love frequency. That's what she lives for. And that's why she does a lot of weddings here. And that's what we sort of, where I help build on that, because she wants to do sanctuary stuff as well, retreats. And the whole idea is to raise that vibration and raise the love. And I do online stuff as well. All the retreats will also be online, because not everybody can get to Set Cops, but you can get to a computer, or at least to a phone. So my stuff is online as well as being here. But I still do my free stuff. I still do 2 classes a week, qigong with the alpacas, and I call them my ladies. So hello, my ladies. And I've got people that only come for the ladies. You know, they only come to see, they don't care about qigong, they just want to see the alpacas. And that's good, that's awesome. And now there's a pig as well, there's Dottie, Xiao Chu, which means piggy in Chinese. So, yes, the whole idea, I still do that sort of stuff. And, you know, but it's all about just growing and expanding. You know, you want to, there's a free one-to-one I do, come for a 20-minute chat, and, you know, you'll always get a couple of qigongs, and we'll always have a laugh and have a talk. And you know, there's something for everybody. That's the whole point with what I do. It's not just about the healing side. You can come just to have a relaxing massage. I'm not going to tell you that I'm going to open up all your chakras, your meridians, blast your Merkaba into factor 10. I'm going to keep that bit quiet. You just think you'll get a relaxing massage. But anyway, hello.
Fantastic. I mean, yeah, I look forward to that. If it's written in the stars, I'm coming, you know. So, yeah, and I'm being moved more towards the medical science side of things now, because that's where my field is now. Most people don't know, but I teach in postgraduate medicine at universities. So there's a very serious side of me that's sort of related to the biomedical and medical sciences. But I also have this other side. In fact, I got today as I was driving, you've got a new name, Dr. Lightheart, Vampire Slayer. And I thought, what do you mean by that? I said, well, when you're on with Sifu tonight, talk about loosh, because lots of people are becoming understanding of this loosh stuff, and explain to them that really it's about the generation of negative emotion. That's what makes you a tasty morsel. Yeah. So as I say, if you want to be unpalatable for these things, right, then you need to look at how you are and what's the reason that you are generating this emotional reactivity, because they love it. The more afraid you are, the more tasty you are. You know? And there's a lot of stuff going. Sorry, mate.
I was just going to say, and in the FT 100 and 500 index businesses, they know this. They actually use this. You know, they send out blessings and curses all the time, and they attack each other and attack businesses. That you know, it's more like Harry Potter than people realise. You know that in the millionaires and billionaires use magic and they use this stuff all the time, but they keep us as muggles. They keep us unaware because they like keeping it to themselves. But this is really important stuff.
It is, mate, and I think it's our naivety, our ignorance, and sometimes our stupidity and our arrogance that's causing. Because I see the world out there as a projection of our collective consciousness, and what's coming out now is all the shit's coming out. So there's a positive thing to this. All the guns, you know, like your septic tank. All the shit's coming out to be sort of floating on the surface. And what we need to do metaphorically is scoop all that away and let the clean stuff remain. So it's basically a cleansing and a filtering, but the filtering only comes with an understanding and an acceptance of the part that we've all individually played in this. So really it's about owning your shit, basically. You know, can't put any more clearer than that, but people will probably understand what I'm saying. And unless you do, what it will do is it will, you know, it won't flush properly and it'll keep plopping back up until you actually deal with it properly, you know. And I think that's coming through more and more now, that what you deny will come back tomorrow to smack you a bit harder until you say, okay, I own it, I own up, I can see now, and this is what, yeah. And so it's really a sort of universal confessional without the punishment. It's actually because as soon as you own up to it, you're sort of released from it, really, you know. Yeah. So it is a very busy time, you know, and I think, as I said before, the West have got certain ideas on how we should live. So have the East, you know. I like the Eastern philosophy because the West says, go West, young man, and make something of yourself, right? And the East say, go East, young man, and make nothing of yourself, you know. Yeah. And so really, it's something and nothing. I think that's where it is. Have a foot in both camps, but be sort of detached from them as well, so you can see what's going on clearly, you know. I mean, a lot of people who are listening to this will understand, you know, but more than anything else, Sifu, I want people to know about the practical, simple, straightforward actions that they need to in order to clean up their own act. Because then they'll become lighter, then they'll become freer, they'll be nicer to live with, blah de blah de blah de blah. Right, mate, that's it. It's we've come to time, and I'm glad it all worked out in the end.
Yeah, it's all good in the hood. And thank you very much, my friend. I enjoyed it as always.
Great, and I'll speak to you soon.
All right, take care.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.